Hello guys, welcome back. Today I will be crocheting Easter eggs with you guys. I'm gonna put the step-by-step process in the description. If you are interested and you know the basics of crochet, you can always look them up on different videos. So you just need to know the magic circle, single crochet, and that's pretty much it. And then decrease and increase, which is pretty simple if you know single crochet. So this is what the eggs look like. They are crocheted Easter eggs. I thought these are so cute. Oh my goodness. Look, I made so many. I have so many of these laying around. I just made them for fun, but I couldn't stop making them. They take me about 30 minutes to make. But since I'll be telling you a story, I don't think I will be able to finish the egg today. But usually, if you are making this at home while watching something, not talking or describing anything, usually it takes me about 31 minutes or a little bit more to make each egg. I will start with a cotton yarn and make a magic circle. And then I will tell you the story that I have for you today. So the magic circle is pretty simple. You just put 2 fingers around, go like this, crisscross. Okay, like that. And then you grab your crochet hook. So you grab your crochet hook under one of the bottom yarn, and then you pull up like that. And then while you're holding it, you make a little chain. So there it is. I know it's hard to explain actually the magic circle, so I'd suggest you watch some other videos. I will link some good ones in the description that helped me learn how to make a magic circle. And then you single crochet 6 times into this magic circle. So I'm gonna single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 5, and 6. Okay. And what I like to do is put a little pin in here for the first stitch, so I know where I started. And you pull it up to make it a little circle. This is the beginning of first row, so now you have 6 stitches right now. The first row you just single crochet inside the magic circle 6 times, single crochet, and then you increase 6 times into each of the stitches, and increasing is just putting 2 single crochet in each stitch. That's it. So you go around for the second round, just increase, and you should have 12 crochet increase for another round. So one single crochet, the next stitch you increase. And I'll be telling you guys a story. The case I will tell you guys today is one of Hawaii's biggest mysteries. And you will know why it's a mystery. It also was a crime that rattled Oahu for years. This case altered Hawaii's policy on police unmarked vehicles. So after this happened, supplemental blue lights of police cars were banned. You will know why that happened, but let's get started. Lisa Au was born on July 25th, 1962. And I just want to mention, this is another person that was born on my birthday. But this time it's not a serial killer. But how strange is this, that this person was born, another person that I'm talking about, that was born on my birthday. And I found this out after researching already the case. So it's not the reason why I picked the case. But I actually couldn't find her birthday for the longest time. And I had to dig so deep. And I finally found some more information about her early life. So I thought it was really interesting. She was born to parents Chester Dennis Au and Patricia. She was of mixed heritage. Her dad was Chinese and her mom was Hawaiian. So she was a very beautiful, gorgeous. At the time of the tragedy, Lisa was 19 years old. She was 5 feet tall and weighed about 120 pounds. According to most people that knew her, she was a very ambitious person, really hardworking, and very careful about everything. She was very hardworking, responsible. She was really looking forward to her future. She was a hairdresser. She was working at Susan Pierce's salon in Kailua. Lisa was also dating a University of Hawaii student who was also her age. His name was Doug Holmes. I believe they were dating for about 2 years. On the rainy day of January 20th, 1982, Lisa was planning to meet her boyfriend at his sister's house. His sister lived in an apartment in Makiki in Hawaii. Lisa finished her shift at the salon leaving the sister's apartment, and Doug left the apartment as well. They both went separate ways. By the way, these stitch markers, they're really nice. You can use like a paper clip even, but at the end of each row, I like to put my stitch marker there to know where to stop, because sometimes it's hard to see when you're going in a circle like that when you're crocheting. For the longest time I was using just a paper clip, and then I ordered these online for like $1. So they're very lifesavers for sure. Doug returned to his dorm in university while Lisa was supposed to come home. Lisa lived with her roommate Candy, and according to Candy, Lisa did call her around midnight from the sister's house and told the roommate Candy that she will be home soon. It was about a 20-minute drive to her house. And so because it was so late, Candy didn't think anything of it that she didn't come home, because it was raining. It was pouring rain that night. And so she thought that Lisa decided to stay at the sister's house because Lisa was not a good driver either. She just got her license 2 days prior to this. So she figured that Lisa must have decided to stay because of the rain, and it was dark too. So when Lisa did not show up the next day, that's when roommate began to worry, and understandably so. She called the parents of Lisa, and together they contacted Doug, who is her boyfriend, and he volunteered to help them to find Lisa. While searching for Lisa, Doug came to a disturbing discovery. He found her abandoned car on the side of the highway. Near Mount Willie, near the old Kailua drive-in. And so Doug called police to report his findings. Upon arrival, the officers noticed that her driver's side window was halfway rolled down, and also the floor of the car was soaked, drenched in water. It was about 3 inches of water in there. But the weirdest part was the purse that was on the seat that was completely dry. The purse was completely dry, as if someone placed it there after whatever happened with the water there. And since it was raining, must have been because of the window that was rolled down, the water was in there. So that means somebody placed the purse after, like recently, after the rain was gone. actually wiped it clean. Everything else appeared to be normal with the car, except another odd thing was that the driver license and registration from the car was missing. It was determined that Doug Holmes, her boyfriend, was the last person to have seen her, and he, of course, quickly became a suspect. This disappearance really shocked the island of Oahu. People just couldn't believe how such a beautiful person with so much life ahead of her could just vanish with no trace. A lot of people actually volunteered to search for her. A statewide search began in hopes to find her. Thousands of volunteers were trying to search and help the police. There were a lot of missing persons flyers distributed everywhere by volunteers outside of Hawaii as well. And unfortunately, January 31st of 1982, so exactly 10 days after the search began, Lisa's body was found. Her naked corpse was found inside a raven on Tantalus Drive. It quickly became apparent that Lisa did not end up there on her own will, because it was a mountainous, wooded area with no street lights installed on this drive whatsoever, so it was completely dark. Any suspicion of suicide was completely ruled out because of how her body was found. Eventually, Lisa's case was moved from missing persons case to a homicide unit in police department. Despite the countless attempts made by different medical examiners, Lisa's cause of death was never determined. This was also due to the lack of evidence that forensic officers had to work with at the time. So the police only had witnesses and their testimonies to work with, pretty much. Some testimonies actually claimed that there's been a man posing as a police officer in an unmarked vehicle, and this scenario seemed very plausible because of how Lisa's car was found with the window halfway open and driver license and registration was missing from the car. One testimony was from a woman who was driving in Honolulu in the evening in her car, and she sees in the rear view mirror that there's a car following her very closely. She starts thinking that it's just another driver, when suddenly the car's front grille starts illuminating with a pair of flashing blue lights, just like police has. She pulls over, and when the person comes up to her window, he asks her for driver license and registration, but oddly, he also asks her to go sit in his vehicle. And so, without hesitation, the woman realizes that this is a really strange situation, and police would probably not ask you to sit in their car for no reason. So she speeds off, leaving the man behind. But the scariest part is that he gets in his car and starts following her. And he was following her for about 10 minutes until she turned to the police department. And that's when she scared him off and he went a separate way. But how scary is it when you think about, after leaving the police department, I would be terrified. I would ask my police to maybe follow me home just in case, because when you leave the police department, that person might, come out from somewhere else and start following you again because they know where you went. I don't know. It seems very, very scary to be in a situation like that. The woman went to the police department and was able to give a good description of the man and what the car looks like. She described the man as being in his mid-20s. She said he had a baby face, and she also noticed he had brown eyes. He was about only 5 foot tall and weighed about 180 pounds. She also mentioned that he did not have a Hawaii native English accent, so he spoke English without any accent. So the search for this unknown man continued for about a week. Honolulu police actually ends up arresting a person named Donald Santana that matched the description. And they arrested him on suspicion of impersonating a police officer. They charged him with impersonating a police officer and possession of a switchblade. However, police doesn't think that he's the person who's involved in murdering Lisa. And police doesn't specify why they don't think this. After some time, another woman came forward and said that she was actually stopped by a man who was not police, but stopped her on the same night that Lisa went missing. Even though he didn't ask her to get in his car, he stopped her in an unmarked vehicle, asked her for driver license and registration, told her that she was driving too fast, but he let her go. But the woman said that this man was very suspicious and she did not think that he was a police because he was not dressed in police uniform and he was just very odd. He told her that she was speeding when she wasn't. So she decided to report this. This man was described as being in his late 30s and has hazel eyes with blonde hair. He was about 5'10" and weighed about 200 pounds, which was completely opposite description of the previous guy. So police actually made a composite description of 3 separate men that were just from witnesses and testimonies that they got. However, the sketches were, for some reason, never released to the public, which makes it super weird because people should be able to know what the person looks like. If he has been such a danger to the public and has been impersonating police, I'm not sure why they prosecutor's office had several theories about what happened to Lisa. One of the theories is that she was on her way home when she was stopped and abducted by someone from the Kailua location where her car was found, or that she was killed elsewhere and the vehicle was brought to that location in Kailua where they found it, to make it look like that's where she was abducted from, to confuse the police. For some reason, the latter one seems more probable to me, because the car was cleaned up, so that makes more sense. Another theory is that she was a victim of an identified serial killer. He was never identified, and he was confirmed to have killed women from 1985 to 1986, and the women were ages 17 to 36. And a lot of the victims were never found. Lisa fell into the profile of the victim. The confirmed murders also happened on the same highway where Lisa's car was found. But it was in 1982, not from that time that the serial killer murders were happening, so it might have been the same person. But that person was never identified, and the rumor of police stopping Lisa's car was the most popular. It spread like wildfire in Oahu at that time. People became increasingly worried with police in unmarked vehicles. In response to these allegations, an officer was placed under an investigation, and Honolulu PT policy on unmarked vehicles was then altered to get rid of those vehicles completely. The entire investigation was based on Lisa's missing driver's license. However, it was later discovered that Lisa actually had forgotten to pick it up after signing a check at the grocery store where she got the tuna poke. Therefore, the investigation was leading to a dead end. Now that they know the police wasn't involved, most likely, Lisa's family actually decided to hire a private investigator who was a guy that was actually assigned to her case. He was the first person who was assigned to her case, but then suddenly he got fired for some reason. Lieutenant Burke Cornell. He believed that if basic investigative work was done on Lisa's case, then this case would have been solved sooner. Cornell also expressed his doubts on the medical examiner's work on this case. So he actually ordered for Lisa's body to be removed from the underground and sent to Los Angeles, to the coroner there. And they noticed that the body was not even washed when they placed it. So that means they did not examine it as well. But since it wasn't washed, the decomposition has advanced even further, because it's been a year by this time when they decided to examine the body again. So they couldn't really tell anything except that the body wasn't washed and wasn't properly handled. When they found the body, they could have done more, but now it's too late. The lead suspect, Doug Holmes, who was the boyfriend of Lisa, had a lot of signs pointing to him. A security guard at Doug's sister's apartment complex said that at about 11 p.m., stormed off and left first in their car, followed by the guy who left a few minutes after that. Moreover, Doug also was issued 2 separate lie detector tests, and he failed both of them. And his explanation for failing those tests was that he was feeling very guilty that he didn't go with her that night because she was such a new driver and it was pouring rain. He could have at least followed her home and saw that she got home safely, but he didn't do that, so he felt very guilty and nervous when taking those lie detector tests. And another thing is that allegedly Doug was picked from a photo lineup of suspects, and this was because a woman saw a guy driving at the same night as Lisa's disappearance. The guy was driving with a woman in the car that looked unconscious. She was unconscious to the point that her head would flop over, and he was picked from a photo lineup when put in a line with other people by the woman that saw that driver. So that's very suspicious, I think. There were also scratches on his face when officers arrived on scene when Doug reported that he found the car. The officers did find that the injuries were concerning and unusual. Doug also admitted that he had been trying to end the relationship with Lisa for some time. However, the detectives did not think that Doug had any motive to kill Lisa, so they did not look into him further and did not arrest him for anything. Police is still hoping for new evidence of confessions for this case and new testimonies. The case is still open after 40 years. So it's been exactly 40 years actually this year. Unfortunately, both of her parents have since passed away, never getting the answer. But her siblings are still alive, and they still hope for justice to be served. What do you guys think? I personally think that the boyfriend, as in a lot of cases, the spouse is involved, and I think this is one of those cases that was overlooked, unfortunately, and police should have looked into this Doug Holmes some more. There was so much pointing towards him, and the fact that the guard even heard a couple arguing, that might be motivation for him to kill Lisa because she didn't want to end the relationship, or he didn't want her to be with someone else besides him. This is very common actually. Motivation, as I've seen in a lot of these cases, when either the boyfriend or the spouse murders. Of course, it can happen the other way too. The wife as well as the girlfriend. I still hope that there is an answer to this case. There's been cases that have been cold for decades, and then some new information comes in with new evidence. You'll never know. You never know, so let's hope for that. And I just got to round 6, so I didn't make it far, as you can see, but this is what I have so far. This is the final result that you'll have. By the way, if you see parentheses on pattern, that means it's multiplied but by whatever comes next. So you do whatever is in